Learning as a schus refuah shlema filan chay basarach. We're on the bottom of Samach Tesamid Beis. Amar Rava, second line from the bottom. Zoyno evedes kechavim v'yisrael mesubin etzla chamr shari. You have a Zoyna, a woman who's a non-Jew, a non-Jewish Zoyna, and she's eating together with Jewish men. So Jewish men, normally when there are Jewish men around Jews again around non-Jews, the women are the non-Jews are generally careful. They know they're going to get in trouble if they're menasach the yain. It's hard for me to understand exactly what this case is because they see what she's doing. So I don't know what the mirsis is over here. Like she either does it or she doesn't. I guess it's the point is, I guess other people can depend. They could say, no, I'm sorry, let me track that. So the issue over here is, would she be menasach liyayin, and would these men, because of their taivas, obviously they're there together with her because of for nefarious reasons, would we say they would not object because they want to get on her good side? So Gemara says, no, it's mutter. Nihid the takaf lehu yitzra da aveira. Even though they have a yetzer hara for znus, yitzra the yain nesach letakaf lehu. They're going to still be careful about yain nesach. Jews are notorious. This is something we often find, that people can be very schizophrenic when it comes to averis. And for Avoda Zara, azayvait, that they don't do. We're on the top, right on the top of Ayin Amud Aleph. Zoyna Yisraelis va'ovid oivdei kechavim mesubin. If it's one Jewish woman who's a nebuch zoyna and she's consorting with oivdei kechavim, and they're by a table with wine, awesome. Then it's awesome. My timer. Hayel v'zila alayu. Since she has degraded herself in this way, so they no longer are going to listen to her. Basrayu greater. She's going to give in to them. Rashi says, Basrayu grira deshavkaluhu l'nuchsuche. She's not going to stop them. She has no sense of self-worth if she's gotten down to this point, and she's not going to object if they're menasach. So later on, if a yid wants to partake of the wine that was at that meal, it's going to be us. Hahu Beisa. The Gemara is now, this is a bunch of about, I think it's like 10, 15 cases where people are left, where Goyim are left in under different circumstances with wine. Hahu Beisa to have Yosef Bechamra de Yisrael. There was a house that had wine that belonged to a Jew. As Rashi explains a little later on, that it didn't just belong to the Jew, it belonged to the guy as well, so the guy had rights to this wine. All Ovid Kechavim went into the house. Achta Ladasha Ba'apeh. He clocked the door behind him. So, as we're going to see throughout this Gemara, generally, if a guy goes into a place, we always assume that he's going to be very careful because he doesn't want to be found as a ganef. So that's gonna make him too nervous to be menasach the yain. But as Rashi explains, in this particular case, he was a partial owner, so he had rights to be there. So he wasn't scared. So really, it should be us. But there was a hole in the wall, in the door. And they found Ovid Kechavim, he was standing amongst the bottles of wine. Amarava called the lahadibiza shari, the haigisa of haigisa awesome. Whatever could be seen through the hole, it's still going to be mutter, because he still is scared. Even though he locked the door, he knows that the Jew can come at any time and see him there. He doesn't have the mirsis of being scared as a ganef, but he is scared of being observed. So whatever he could see, the door is locked, so he knows that he's safe outside of the view of the hole. So whatever can be seen in the hole is mutter, but on the sides, a haigisa is also. Hahu chamra di Yisrael. Have a Yosef bebeisa. A Yid had wine that was in his house. To have a dire Yisrael bel yoina, a Yid was living on top. Va'ayvid kechavim betachtoina. And Ayvid kechavim was down below, on the lower level. So the Yid on the top can peer down and see what was going down below. Shamu kol tigra. There was a loud commotion outside, nafki, and they both went out. Kadam asa Ayvid kechavim, achta l'dasha b'apei. And Ayvid kechavim went in and he locked the door so no one could get in. So in this case, it's a little worse because he knew that everyone went outside to look at the commotion. Amarava chamer shari. It's still mutter. He's still worried that the Yid maybe went into his own place and could see him, even though he locked the door so no one can get him from the outside. And he knew the guy went out, but he doesn't know when he went in. There was a separate, we're talking about, and this is it's interesting. I always think whenever we come across these Gemaras about the Tachtain El Yaina, I always think of those motels, that like those strip motels where they have a separate staircase to get to the second floor on the outside. Because normally by us, we think of stairs going on the inside to get to the second floor. It's not the way it was. The Yid could have gone into the top from his own separate staircase and looked down. Hahu ushpiza. There was a inn. That a Yid had his wine there. He found a guy that was amongst the bottles of wine. Amarava, im nitvisalav kaganev shari, v'loy aser. If the guy being there amongst the wines is going to be accused of being a ganef, and he has no, as we're going to see, he has no way to defend himself from that accusation, so he's going to be nervous about being accused of being a ganef, and therefore he won't touch the wine, and therefore the wine is mutter. But if not, it's also. Ahu beisadavi yosef bechamra. There was a house that had wine in it. And they found a guy amongst them. Amaravi isli l'shtamute chamra aser v'loy chamra shari. So Rashi explains this. This is really the flip side of the last case. So we said if he can be treated as a ganef, then it's mutter. We say even if he would be treated as a ganef for being found there, and he has no excuse for being there, and we would normally expect that if a guy is amongst the wine that he's doing his thing and being menasachet, but if he isle l'shtamute, if he has a excuse, if he has a way, an explanation, then it's going to be aser, because we can't depend on the fact, on his fear, on his mirsus, when he has an explanation of why he was there. Let's see Rashi. And he says this is the reason why I came in. In that case, he won't be scared. He went in, Hitaka went into to be Menasach wine. V'savar mishkachai li, if they find me, ashmetina, I'm going to have an explanation. Even though he has no explanation for why we'd be touching the wine if he was caught in the act, it's still usher. The lav l'suchi lama lamalei ayil. If not for the fact that he was coming to a nasach, we would say, why are you coming in? It's not similar to the case where Ayvid Kechavim left him in his store. The Hasan keeping the Bershus Ayil v'yadin l'may ayil. That's a case where he's worried someone's going to come in middle. But over here we're talking about it's not the fear of being caught in the act, it's the fear of being treated as a ganef, like the police will see him there and they'll say, we know that you came in to be menasach the yain, and that's a big problem for us, this is big business, and they'll toss him in jail. So if he has
What's
an
it?
excuse, like he says, I was there for I was going to pick up my medicine, and he has a viable excuse, then the yain will be usher. Otherwise, we say he's too nervous about being treated as a ganef, and he won't touch the wine.
Why is this different than the case of the inn?
By the end, it's a question of he doesn't know when a person is going to come back. It's literally he's scared of being caught in the act. Over here, it's like it's a more generalized fear that he knows he's doing something illegal, and he'll be thrown in jail. I don't remember why. When we learned that Gemara, I'm pretty sure Rashi and Taisus the Rishonim explained why over there he's not
And I'm
worried
saying, but
about
you just
being a
said the
ganef.
case, the third case, the case right before this was the exact opposite, right?
Well, you're talking about not the Chanus. You're talking about
No, who is
the case
Shpiza?
of Davi Yosvi Beidani, Im Nitvasalov Kaganov.
Right.
Right. That's the thing. There's two sides of the coin. If he's scared to be treated as a ganef,
Yeah.
then it's going to be mutter. But if he normally would be scared to be treated as a ganef, but he has an excuse of why he was there, then he's no longer scared that he's going to be thrown in jail. He'll say, I was just here. I was picking something up. I had a package to pick up. So then he'll be menasach the yayin because he knows he has a way out. He can talk his way out of it. Amar Rava. I'm sorry. Meisvei. Frek the Gemara. On this that was saying that Islay Lishtamute Chamra Aser, but if he's Nitvaslav Kaganav, it's Mutter. Meisvei. Ninal HaPundik. If in the same case where this is all talking about where they were in Hahu Shpiz Daviyasa Bechamra. So if the Ovid Kechavim locked the door behind him, he went in there and he locked the door behind him. Oisha Amaloi Shmoyer, or if the innkeeper said, I'm going away for a while, so please watch it, Asr. So either of those cases, if he locked the door behind him, so he has free reign, or if he was told that the innkeeper is not coming back, Asr. Ma'alav afagav the lesle lishtamute. L'chayra, isn't that even, aren't we saying where he locked the door, even though he doesn't have any explanation, so why isn't he scared he's going to be treated as a ganef? Loy, but Gemara says no, it isn't. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about where he taka has an explanation, and that's the reason why it would be awesome.
But
Let's
the
say
innkeeper asked him to watch it, so he has an explanation why he's there.
there's two separate things. We're talking about the first thing that we said. We said if he locked the door behind him.
Okay,
So
only on that part.
on that part, right? So we're saying why is he also when the balabayas comes back, he'll open the door, and the guy's going to be scared that he's going to be thrown in jail. So Zamar, but the Islish Namute, he has some explanation. He said I had to lock the door because there was a wild animal. It was a wild monkey that could open up a knob, so I had to lock it. Hahu Yisrael v'Ovid Kechavim. There was a Yidden and Goyim that have a Yasivi b'Kashasu Chamra. They were sitting and drinking wine. Sham Yisrael Kol Tzalui Beiknishta. He heard that the Gabe going around saying it's time to daven. Kam v'Azal. He went to daven. Amarava Chamra Shari. The wine is mutter. Meimerama Hashner Mitkalel Chamre v'Hader Asi. The guy says, the Yid who went to shul, he's going to remember. He maybe he knows that davening on Rosh Hashanah takes 8 hours, but he says the Yid, when he's going to remember that he has wine, he's going to run back to make sure that it doesn't become puzzled. So the guy he won't be comfortable that he has a big block of time to be menasach. Ahu Yisrael v'Ovid Kechavim Navi Yasivi ba'arba. They were sitting on a boat. Sham Yisrael Kol Shipur Debei Shimshi. And the Yid heard the shayfer of Bein Hashmashos that it was almost Shabbos. Nafak v'Yazal. So he went and he left. Amarava chamer shari. Nevertheless, the wine is mutter. Meimer asha, meimer ama. The guy will say, Hashta mitkale lechamer v'hada asi. The Yid will remember that he has wine and he's going to come back on the boat. Ah, v'imishum shabso. Doesn't the guy know that Yidden Hashem Shabbos, they don't go on boats on Shabbos? Zak Gemara, the Rava says, Ha'amali Isser Giura, Isser, a ger by the name of Isser told him, Ki avinin ba'arviyusan, when I was an Aramean, when I was a guy, Aminim Yudoy le'minteri Shabsa. We always said that Yidden can't possibly observe Shabbos, which is 100% true. When you tell a Yid, a guy that, for 25 hours he can't be reached no matter what, they really don't believe it. I remember my boss, my old boss, told me he one time got on the first night of Rosh Hashanah, he got like 20 calls. He saw his phone ringing every 30 seconds. And after Yom Tov, he asked was another tax partner, it's another lawyer, why'd you keep calling me? You know I'm Sabbath observant. I told you it's holiday. He said, I know there's 2 days of the holiday. I wanted to catch you in between the 2 days. I didn't know what time it was, so I kept on calling to get that slot in between the 2 days. So they don't really believe that the Jews can possibly be Shemesh Shabbos. And they have even a raya of it. The minteri Shabsa kama kisi kama shachi b'shuka. If Yidden will Shemesh Shabbos, it happens that people are walking and the shofar blows and they have to then drop their wallets in the street. So the street should be littered with Jewish wallets. But the Goyim don't know that we hold like Rabbi Yitzchak, that Rabbi Yitzchak hamaitzi kis b'Shabbos melichi pachas pachas midaled amas. That if someone leaves his wallet, he can move it daled amas and then wait a little bit, and he's not, as long as he's not maver daled amas within a period of time. So that's why in the end they say that the Yid must not be Shemesh Shabbos. They don't believe like all these Eruv stuff and all that. It just sounds bizarre to them. Hahu Arya dahabendoim ba'amatzrasa. There was a lion that was making a tumult outside of the wine press. Shama Ovid Kechavim Tasha Beinidani. Ovid Kechavim got hurted and got scared, and he hid amongst the kosher wine. Amarava Chamer Shari, the wine is still mutter. Mema Amar Kihechi that Tashina. No, it's Shinami Yisrael. He still has a mirsis because he said the same way I'm running away from the lion, a Yid will also run after me and find me. It's Shinami Yisrael Acharoi, the Kachazali, and he'll see me. Hanu Ganvi, the Salki Le Pumpadisa. There were these Ganovim that came to Pumpadisa. Upaschu Chavita Tuva. They went rampaging around town and they opened many barrels of wine. Amarava Chamer Shari. He said the wine is mutter. All the wine, it sounds like he's saying all the wine is mutter. My timer, Ruva Ganvi Yisrael Ninu. In Pumpadisa, the roiv of the Ganavim are Yidden, so there's no chash of Yayin Esach. Hava Uvda ben Hardoi. A similar incident happened in Ardoi that there were a bunch of, basically there were burglars, that were a gang of burglars running around and opening wine. And I imagine what they opened, they drank. And the chash is that they opened other things and were menasachet while everyone was sleeping. For Amar Shmuel Chamer Shari, he said that the wine is mutter. Now this is not a case. It was in Pumpadisa they had Rav Yisrael, Ganovim Yisrael. They had a Jewish mafia there, but in Ardoi they didn't. So why is it mutter? Kaman Krebel Yazid, the Amar Savik Biatar. He says when you don't know if the Ganef even came in, it's tar. So in this case, he says this is a suffix of. It's not a suffix that he held the wine and we're not sure if he's a Yid or a guy. It's talking about it's a case where it's a suffix of whether he went in and was menasach liyayin at all. Where do we see that suffix bia, that Rabbi Eliezer holds a suffix bia when we don't know whether he came in the first place is tar? That's not. Hanichnes labika b'yemais hakshamim. He says it's lagabi tuma and taira. So if someone went into the valley during the winter months, Tuma beside the plainus, and there's tuma in one of the fields. So in the Maisak Shamim, generally people don't go into the fields because it will damage the crops. So it has a din of a Rishus Hayachid. A Rishus Hayachid suffix is Tameh. But it's not a singular field here. We're talking about a large bika, and one of the fields has tumah in it. And he doesn't know, the tumah beside the plain is Amar halachti b'makam Allah, when he did, niknasti lo'isasada. He knows I was in the general vicinity, but I don't know if I came into that particular field that that had the tumah in it. In loy niknasti, if I didn't. Well, as I'm a suffix biyatar, suffix maga tumah. If he's not sure if he touched it, if what he touched is tameh, then it's going to be tameh. But if he doesn't know if he was in that place in the first place, it's tar. So he wants to say the same thing over here. We don't know if the thieves actually went in to where the wine is. Just because they went into other houses, we don't know that they went into this house and were not the wine. Dr. Mara, loy, shani hasam, kiven deka the paschal shuma mina, havele svek sveka. He says, no, you can't bring a raya from the case of, it could be, he doesn't have to be that the reason is because he holds like Rabbi Eliezer, that Suffolk Bia is tar. Because he holds Suffolk Bia is also tummy. But the reason over here is for a different reason. These thieves are going for money. So they're not going to, even if they're goyim, and even if they were goyim, in Nardai they were goyim, they're not, when people are busy with money, they don't stop for Avoda Zara. So therefore, we don't have to worry about that they were menasach the yain. So that's the reason, not because of Rebbe Eliezer. There was a tinoikis ovedes kechavim, a young girl who was ovedes kechavim. She was found amongst the barrels of wine. And you could see on her hand, she was some of the bubbles from the wine. Amarava chamr shari. Rava says the wine is mutter. Ema mikveh de chavita shekalte. She took mikava de chavita. She took it from the outside of the barrel. Fa'ava gav de lekasu. Even though we don't see any foam or bubbles on the outside of the barrel, it happened to be some, and that's what she took off. And Taisus explains. I'm sorry, it's Rashi who says it. It's just a young girl. Just a young girl that she's not so involved in Avodah Zara. I'm not sure why. I guess because over here you have some evidence, so this overcomes the presumption that they're scared of being called a ganaf. But since she's a young girl, that's still not enough to answer it. Hahu Pulmusa, there was a army, troops, the Salak Lahardoi. They came to Nardoi, Pischu Chavita Tuva, and they opened many barrels. Kiasar of Dimi Amar, Ovda Hava Kameder Belaza Vishara. Rabbi Laza said it's muta, Dana, I don't know the reason. Imishim the Savak Rabbi Laza Damas Safik Biatar. Is it like we said before that he holds it's a Safik Bia? We don't know whether they went into any particular barrel. Did they go into this one? Or is it because he thought that they knew that there were a Yid in there? Zaknumara, Ihachi, Hi Safik Bia, Safik Magu. Zaknumara, if why are you saying that it's a Safik Bia, that we don't know whether they got into the houses? If you're saying that they were Goyim, like Rashi says, Kivin de Maftechi Tuva, Ema Daita Mina Pisru. No, so the Iachi Hai Safik Bia, Safik Magahu, it's not really a Safik Bia. It's not that we don't know whether they came in. We don't know whether they touched the barrels. They opened a lot of barrels. Do we know if they touched it? If it's a suffix of whether they touched it, that's not a question of beer. They were all over the place. The question is whether they touched this particular barrel. I think that's the nafkamina between this and the thieves. The thieves didn't go into every house. Over here, they were all over the place, but they didn't open every barrel. So it's just the question of did they open this one? Sagt the Gemara, "Kiven the tuva ema adaita b'mayna pischu kasavik bia dami." The Gemara says, no, what we really meant, we don't mean that it's really a suffix bia, because they were all over the place. But since they opened up a lot of barrels and they didn't necessarily drink them, what they were really doing was looking for money. They thought people were hiding money in the barrels. So it's really a suffix of whether they were looking for money, which we say makes it into a svek seika, and we don't have to worry. In that case, it's going to be mut.
Are we saying that they resealed those barrels?
I'm not sure what happened with the way I think the Gemara is going is that the barrels that were open were, I would think, are certainly aser. Or maybe we say, I mean, on those we don't have a svek sveka. On those l'chayra, or maybe let me give you another suggestion. Maybe they knew there were 100 sealed barrels and 100 open barrels. When they come back later, they find 150 open barrels. So they don't know which ones were opened. So they can't identify. They know they opened a lot of barrels, but they don't know which ones they were. Maybe that's what we're talking about. It's not. This is a little bit unclear what the background is. The Rashi didn't really explain in detail what what exactly we're answering. Are we answering the ones that weren't found? Rashi, the Gemara said before that it's a suffix bia. It's not clear what these thieves were doing. Were they going into every house? Did they go into some houses? That's the way I understand it. Before it was that they were going into some houses, and over here they went into every house, but they didn't open every barrel.
We're definitely not assuming that anybody resealed it.
No, certainly not. That's not what the soldiers do. The masala iklada, they take out the word miftacha. Iklada is a lock. There was a woman who had she had a bar, basically, and she gave the key to an Ived Kechavim. This similar thing happened. When she gave her the key to this Avoda Kechavim, she wasn't saying, I want you to go in and check on my barrels of wine that I have inside. What she was saying is, I'm going away, I want you to hold the barrel. Like, sometimes you give your next door neighbor the key. It doesn't mean that you want your next door neighbor to go into your house. You just want them to have it in case you come back and you need the key. So just telling her to watch the key, and therefore the wine inside is mut. Taroisav Tahiris. If Am Aretz is chashed on Tuma, so if a chaver has Tyrus in his house and he gave the key, it's still tar. It's just he's just giving him to watch the keys, not allowing him in to, and therefore you don't have to be chayshish. He was matama the Tyrus. And Zak the Gemara, Hasha Taroisav Tahiris Yayin Nesach Mibayim. Certainly, if we're not chayshish for Tyrus, we're not going to be chayshish for Yayin Nesach. So tomorrow, remember the Tyrus Alimi mi Yayin Nesach. Are we saying that there's more of a chash? We're more concerned about Tahiris than Yayin Nesach, which to me makes a lot of sense, Grada. I don't know what the shaila is, because Yayin Nesach is a deraisa. So we could see there's more because it's more serious. There's more of a chash that they'll violate it. I'm sorry, there's less of a chash that they'll violate it because they know it's a serious matter. But maybe Tahiris, being metamet Tahiris, is not as serious a matter, so therefore it's not Avoda Zara. So maybe they would not be. But anyway, he asks, is it true that the chash Tahiris, if Tahiris are mutter, then certainly Yayin Nesach. Is that true? He said yes. The itmer chatzah shecholka b'masipas. If you have a chatzah, which is a large yard that was divided up with, Rashi says, like a low border, it was just a line of demarcation between them. Amar Rav taroisav tmeis. Rav says that any tyrus that were on the side of it was owned by a Am Aretz and a chaver, we have to be chayshish that the tyrus the were touched by the Amoritz. But legabe of ovid kechavim together with a yid, we wouldn't have to be chayshish in the same case for yayin nesach. So you see that the Tumas and Tyrus are more olam, at least according to Rav, we're more chayshish for being over on it. Rav Yochanan says there's no difference. Both of them are going to be tar. We're not chayshish either the Amaretz touching the Tyrus or the Ovid Kechavim touching the Yain. Meisvei frek the Gemara on Rav, that Rav was machalik between. He said that the Tyrus are going to be Tomei. Meisvei hapnimis shel chava v'achitzayna shel Amaretz. The same case where the chaver has Tyrus in his section, that there was a chaver and Amaretz where the chaver lived in the inner room. It was like what they called the railroad apartment. So you had to pass through the Amaretz's house to get his room to get to the chaver's room, and the chaver has Tyrus in his room. He could leave out his Paris of Tyrus and his Kalim that are tar, even though the Ovid Kechavim can reach in there. Kasha l'Rav. Why is that any different than the Chatzah that was divided into? Why are these two rooms any different? But we're saying that it's going to be tar, and according to Rav, we said it's the Tyrus are Tameh. Amalach Rav Shani Hasib Shenitvus Alav Kaganov. There's no excuse. The single courtyard, the chutzner, it's more open, and anyone could go across, and it's not so suspicious. But if the Amaretz comes into the chaver's room, that's going to be more suspicious, and therefore we won't do so. Tashma. Now the Gemara asks Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer. Gagoy shel chaver l'mayla mi gagoy shel Amaretz. If the chaver is living in a property that is, 3-4 feet higher than they used to live on their roofs. They use that area for doing things. So the chaver is leaving out his Tyrus on his gag, and that's a few feet higher than the gag of the Amaretz. As long as the Ovid Kechavim can't reach it, but if the Ovid Kechavim can reach it, it will be Tameh. Kasha Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said the Tyrus, even by the Chatzar, are tar. So why are we saying it's only if the Yada is not Magas? Over there it's worse because he has a reason. He could say that he won't be Nitvus Alav Kaganef. If his hand is found there, he said, I was just measuring things. I was, so my hand happened to touch it. But if he's not scared of getting caught, that's why it's going to be tummy in that case. Tashma gaga shel chaver b'tzad gaga shel Amaretz. If they're equivalent, they're at the same height. Oyster chaver shetech sham peres aminiach sham kelim v'apish yadish shel Amaretz magas sham kasha l'Rav. So now it's shver on Rav that we say. Rav said that the Tyrus are tamei in the case of a chatzar. So why wouldn't it be tamei in the case of two gagas? Amalek Rav, Labikil of Shimon Gamliel, the Kai Kavasi, another Amik of Shimon Gamliel. He says, we just quoted from Shimon Gamliel, says, Gaga Shechov Lamayim, Gaga Shechov, so I'm depending on Shimon Gamliel. I'm saying like him, this brisa is taka chaylik on me, but I hold like Shimon Gamliel, so I'm not worried about a brisa that says faked. Okay, Yasher Kayach, and
Thank you.
we'll continue tomorrow.